right, Billiken fans, we've got an extra special guest this time around. We've got Phil Forte. He's back on the coaching staff at St. Louis University with the basketball team, and he's been nice enough to join us. Phil, man, good to talk to you again. Thanks for joining the show.
Absolutely. Zach, Peter, thanks for having me. Kind of follow you guys from a distance and everything, even the past couple years or whatever when I was away. So definitely glad to be with you guys tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of, ask you, how does it feel to, well, first of all, actually, let's start off. I want to give you a moment just to kind of remember your dear friend, Ford Stewart. I know I got a chance to interview him, got a chance to know him. I couldn't believe the kind of person he was. But just talk a little bit about him and just freestyle.
Yeah, I'm getting chills just even trying to talk about it. He was my best friend. I was the best man in his wedding. We came in at Oklahoma State together, and kind of just developed a really close relationship in college. We roomed together for 2 years there at OSU, and then when I was done playing my last year for Underwood, Ford followed Coach Ford here for a year, so he was 1 year ahead of me. And then I came here to be a graduate assistant and lived with him for 2 years as well here in St. Louis. And really, we would always joke around about this. A lot of people probably go their whole lives trying to find that type of friendship that we had. And, basketball was just a small fraction of that. We sure went to work together every day. We played together at school, but our friendship off the court is what made it so special. He was a brother to me, and an unbelievable friend. And, just going through the past couple months has definitely been tough, especially with him, his family. The last 4 or 5 months I lived here in St. Louis, I lived in him and Courtney's basement. So definitely got to know them and Lucy pretty well. And Courtney's actually supposed to be due here in 2 days. So that'll be a very emotional and special moment for everybody. But, definitely a brother. I know coming here, there's a lot of emotions. I'm in his office right now, as we speak, and just going to try to live every day for him and just try to make him proud, while I'm sitting here in his chair.
Was there any part of you when this opportunity came up, was there any part of you that, I guess, did you immediately think, yeah, this is the right thing to do? Or was there a part of you that was like, whoa, this is way too heavy. I don't know if I can do this.
No, I remember the conversation I had with Coach Ford, and there was, I told Coach, wherever I was, I always told you I would walk from any other job to come back and work for you again. And, obviously it's a lot with Ford's passing. And I was just like, I don't know. I just think what would Ford want me to do, and Coach Ford kind of cut me off, and he's like, I can tell you exactly what he'd want you to do. He'd want you to come here. And it kind of led to that. I had conversations with his wife, Courtney, and I'm very, very close to the other, Ford's parents, Coach Ford's parents. They've become family for me. They've done so much for me since my freshman year of college. And the more I talked to them, I think it just kind of felt like the right thing to do. When everyone left that arena after the service, for most times you go through something like that. As time goes on, people move on, you go back to their jobs and you get back to your life and reality. And there's a small percentage of people, the close family, and when stuff like that goes on, that they don't just move on right away. And, though that group of people was here in St. Louis. And so, that's what, for me, I was like, those are the people that I want to be around with Ford's son coming into the picture, with Courtney to be there for her as well. This was bigger than basketball at the end of the day. There's a lot of benefits to coming here as for the basketball program, working for Coach Ford, SLU, all that. But, at the end of the day, this was much bigger than basketball for me.
Given those, you had recently taken a job at Texas Rio Grande Valley. Given the circumstances, were they pretty understanding about the opportunity?
Yeah, the coach there, Matt Figure, was great. I mean, he understood. I mean, it was no problem at all. I told him the same thing. I was like, Coach, it's bigger than basketball. He's like, I understand. He's like, I thought this would probably happen anyway. And him and Coach Ford know each other. He was an assistant at K-State when I was in high school. So when Coach Ford was at OSU, they've known each other in crossing. So, but he was great. He understood the whole situation and everything.
Good.
Fairly or unfairly, I mean, you're obviously going to be compared to Ford Stewart going forward as an assistant. I'm just curious, how would you say you're like Ford, and how are you kind of different than him in general? Is like, just day to day, off the court and on the court, as far as coaching?
Yeah, I definitely don't dress as well as Ford did. So I'm gonna let people are expecting me to reach that standard. I'm gonna let a lot of people down. So just trying. I'm gonna go ahead and let that out there. I think a lot of people probably look at us and see the age is similar, fairly young, recently played, all that. And there are some similarities that we have. Like we're young, we can relate to the guys really, really well, I think. But I think our personalities are a little different, not in a good way or a bad, but that's just, whether off the court when we played, our personalities were a little different. I think Ford's smarter than I am. Ford had a mind, whether off the court, whatever. He was very particular in everything that he did. Me, I'm a little more just kind of roll your sleeves up and just get after it every day. I'm not gonna, have a list of 10 things to do. I'm not gonna be quite as organized, and it's probably a flaw of mine. But I think our personalities are a little different. I think, there are some strengths that are a little different as well. Like for me, recruiting, I'm a Texas guy. Like those are the people where I played, I'm from. I know different people have different relationships. I had a different career than Ford, different experiences than Ford did as well. So even though we're both young, we both had a different perspective on the game. We both went through different things in high school and in college, which will kind of shape our thinking. So I know it's kind of a long-worded answer there, but there's definitely some similarities. But I think our approach and our personalities are a little different as well. So even though we're similar in age, I think there's definitely going to be some differences as people kind of go on to see that.
You say your background's Texas, so to kind of circle back on that, Marcus High School, Flower Mound, Texas. Do I have that right?
Right. Yep.
You're Texas born and raised, like so it's your whole background?
So I was born in Salina, Kansas, actually.
Okay.
Born in Salina, moved to Wichita for a little bit. My family's actually half's from Kansas City, half's from Wichita. My maybe 6 or 7 moved to Dallas, dad's job, and then I've always been in the Dallas area since then. So a lot of family in Kansas, but growing up and where most of my childhood was playing and all of that is in the Dallas area.
Do you relish, as we've kind of seen in the recent offers that have gone out to players, do you relish going up against the big conferences in Texas for recruits?
I think all that kind of just works itself out. I think you have to find the right kid too, because if you're going to go up and try to recruit against some of the Big 12 schools or SEC, whatever, you're going to have to recruit a certain kid that fit and style of play is important for. Because the second that A&M calls, and we're in trouble. So I think there's a lot of background that goes into it, making sure that this is a kid that wants to go play at a basketball school, has a chance to impact the program early, make the NCAA tournament, play for a coach that is going to give you a ton of freedom, and to some people may say to a fault. And so those are things I look for. It's relationships too, just kind of who I know there in the area, is their connection to a coach, a trainer, a high school guy that I knew that coached me or played with, or a friend. So a lot of that kind of comes into consideration too.
So you played for Coach Ford at OSU. When you were coming out of high school, what other schools were you looking at, and what is it that brought you there?
You know, it was kind of all over the place, you know, from Big 12 to mid-major. You know, when me and Marcus Smart went to the same high school. And so coming out of high school, we were trying to figure out if we wanted to play together or go our separate way. And it reached a point where we were like, hey, you know, we're going to try to go play together. And so really the best options that we had as far as fitting both of us were between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And so we took our visits, and then we ended up went to OU first, then went to Stillwater, and probably at the time, honestly, thought I was going to OU. We both did. Got to campus, and I mean, the plan that Coach Ford had for us and me especially is kind of what won me over. Most times, me and Marcus went on visits. I was just the little guy that was tagging along, and rightfully so. You know, Marcus is a heck of a player, making $20 million a year in the NBA, rightfully so. But on that visit, you know, Coach Ford said that. He's like, you know, Marcus, if you come, great. If not, Phil, we'll still take you. You know, we want you. And that was the first time that I saw, you know, I had the attention. I was the one a school needed and really wanted, and I felt that. And Coach Ford played it similar position as me, so I knew that he could kind of relate to my game as well. And then me and Marcus has had a close friendship, and so he could go play anywhere. I mean, at the end of the day, kind of looked at me, he's like, "You just want to do it?" And I was like, "Sure." And so we kind of committed on our visit right there. So we ended up getting a lottery pick as well. So it was a day Coach Ford was definitely pretty happy.
2016-17 at OSU, you led the nation in free throw percentage, went 84 of 88 for a nice little 95.5% from the line. Billiken fans have to be wondering, are you bringing that expertise with you? And really, is it truly possible to fix a bad free throw shooter?
Yes, you know, yeah, to an extent. It's like anything, you know, you have to get the right form, and then it's reps. After that, you know, I was laughing with Jordan Goodwin the other day. He was here working out, and so Jordan was here my first 2 years when I was a GA. So I was here Jordan's freshman, sophomore year. I spent a lot of time with him on his shot and everything. And as we all know, last year, I mean, he shot the ball incredibly well and has made a lot of progress from his freshman year. I was laughing with him. He was working out, and his shot looks great. It was unbelievable. And it's like, dang, man, like all you need to do to develop your jump shot is have me leave. You know, the second I left, you know, you started to improve your jump shot. But I think you can. It's about just being in the gym as much as possible. Sure, there's definitely some scenarios where some take more time, more repetition, more time in the gym than others. But it's not becoming a good shooter isn't one of those things that it's a month or 2 months, a summer. That's maybe 2 years, 3 years. And you look at the Steph Curry's, Klay Thompson, that's years of being in the gym, right? That's thousands, millions upon shots to where it's just that muscle memory where it becomes just a habit. It's not just one summer. It takes a lot of time. And so, you know, you just have to be willing to consistently put that time. And that's when you start to see the transition from an okay shooter or good shooter to a great shooter, or someone who doesn't shoot it well to an average shooter.
I'm curious because we mentioned Jordan Goodwin, and I think we'd be remiss to not talk Hasan French when we talk free throws. What is it about big men that tend to struggle? Because I've had a running joke on the last podcast that I did that it was the big hands.
Yeah.
Big hands was, and I don't know, but is there some truth to that? Or is it the height and maybe the angle? What are we looking at?
I do. I think there is some truth to the hand size of the ball, whether that's a myth or whether that's true. I do think there's some truth to it. I think a lot of it's mental. I mean, everyone around here would tell you Hasan in practice probably shot 70%. No, and then he'd get in the game, and I mean, it wasn't the case. But a lot of it is mental. Shooting is a lot like being a golfer, being a pitcher. I mean, there's such a huge mental side of it. It's not like you're going down to the post, is catching and get to your jump hook. Hassan's really good at that. You don't have to think. You just catch it, you get right to it. Shooting, especially when you're on the free throw line, everyone's watching you. You have 10 seconds to stop, think about your shot. It means the one time in basketball, you just get to really stop and think about it. So I think for a lot of kids, it's mental. When you get up there knowing that you've put the time in, that you could actually make this. As Hasan was 70% free throw shooter at practice. So there was something in there that he was wrestling with in the game to where, it just necessarily wasn't the same.
What would you say? And I guess, how did Coach Ford talk to you about it as you were transitioning to this job? But what's your role in terms of practice and game preparation? Are you focused on guards, or is it kind of a broader skill set that you're bringing?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Right now in the summer, it's been mainly player development. We've done a lot of individuals with our guys working on ball handling, shooting, passing, slowly incorporating some of our basic offensive principles. So that's what we've done up to this point. Yeah, there's no doubt I'll spend more time with the guards and going down there and trying to teach our big guys how to shoot a jump hook, just because, one, I'm 5'10" and didn't do that, so I could just relate to our guys more on the perimeter in a guard setting, knowing I played it, been there, and a lot of the drills that we do, I did them for Coach Ford, same stuff. I did it, so I can relate to him, help him out in those areas. So that's why naturally I spend more time with the guards.
I think a lot of Billiken fans were really impressed the way you hit the ground running when it came to recruiting right after you were brought in. What is kind of your recruiting philosophy? What are you looking for? Is it molded more by Coach Ford, or is it kind of your own style that you're bringing?
Oh, there's no doubt it's towards Coach Ford. I think that's something I learned my first 2 years at Sam Houston as an assistant. I'll go watch games, and I'm like, man, I love this kid. And I'd take him to my head coach. He would watch him and be like, it wouldn't fit him. It didn't fit his personality. I might have loved him, but it doesn't matter what I like. I'm not the head coach. So when I go watch games, when I evaluate kids, it's what will he like. Now, the good thing is I know what he likes because played for him. I know the guys that have worked for him and the guys that haven't. And so I think that's the biggest thing. A kid may be very talented, but if you know he's not going to make it in the long run, then it's not worth it. It's not worth anyone's time. So that's, I think, the most important thing for me as an assistant. And I struggled with that my first year. I did. And that's something I've learned over the past couple of years, recruiting towards your head coach. So definitely that's the main thing when I look at a kid.
I think when we had Rick Majerus here, you kind of got the idea that basketball IQ and love of the game were one A and 1B. Mm-hmm. What do you think Coach Ford prizes the most in a recruit? What is that first thing that he says, if he doesn't have it, that's a non-starter?
Yeah, I think you definitely got to have a certain toughness to you. That's how he played. If you guys ever go and watch how Coach Ford played at Kentucky, he plays with that edge, or played with that edge. And that's how he coaches. When you guys come to the game, he coaches with that passion that he played with. So he only knows one speed, and that's what's made him a great player. It's made him a great coach. So you have to recruit guys that kind of have that similar mold that will work for him. And now every kid's different. Everyone's motivated a little differently. But those seem to be the guys that play best for him. And also he's got a soft spot for guys that put the ball in the hole. If you can shoot it and you can make some shots, he'll find a spot for you for sure.
So is it a similar process that you had at Sam Houston State? Do you have a guy that you kind of take back to him, or do you know what Ford wants well enough that you are pretty confident, like, hey, we can move ahead with an offer now?
Yeah, I think there's a mutual understanding, and like, I know what he wants, and right now, like, for example, if we went out and watched through some games in the live period for a 22 kid, that's coming up pretty close. I'm going to make sure that Coach Ford okays that. I mean, that's coming up now. We got to move on this quick. We got to get visits. I mean, it's, young kids, so much of it could change, whether they blow up and they could go to Kentucky, or during the season too, a lot of times, Coach Ford's got a lot going on. So I don't want to bother him with a young kid. Say, hey, coach, like there's a kid that's a sophomore. Can you call? Like, he's just got a lot on his plate. So I think there's a little bit of both, just timing, understanding the situation. For example, the day, I think it was June 15th, when we could reach out and call 2023 kids. And, he asked a couple of us, he said, hey, you guys got some kids I need to call. It's the first day that we could reach out to them. And he's great, gets on the phone with them, calls them, and he'll just kind of put on mute real quick and like, do I need to offer him? You say yes, you say yes, you say no, you say no. I mean, I think he trusts us and what we think. He's very involved in recruiting. I think that's the one thing that I do like about him is he is involved. You tell him, hey, call so-and-so, he'll do it. Or, hey, watch this game, he'll do it. Or call this mom, dad, whatever. He's very involved in recruiting. We meet probably, 4 or 5 times a week on it. And so he's pretty on top of it. And so it's not like you get caught blindsided or you're not really knowing what to expect, what to recruit for. We're pretty organized in it for the most part.
So aside from Texas, and, I'm obviously not going to get into specifics or anything like that, but you've got a big network down there, and that's kind of where you're looking most of the time recruiting. What other pockets of the country do you kind of have like a network, or maybe you're a little more established, or maybe you're familiar with some programs or anything like that? What other areas are you kind of looking at?
Yeah, at the school I was at, we recruited junior college pretty heavily. 7 or 8 junior college kids on our roster. So a lot of junior, whether it's Florida, I spent a lot of time in Florida, Texas, there's a bunch of junior colleges there, and Kansas, wherever, they're all spread out. So I kind of got to develop some relationships at the junior college level, which I think will help us now a lot with the portal, because I think most schools are going to go portal first, and then, they'll go to the junior college kids after. And I think it'll allow us to go and get a top 5 junior college kid in the country, just because everyone's be focusing on the portal first. So definitely that in Oklahoma, I mean, playing there, I'm very, very familiar with that state, which is close, Tulsa, Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And they always have 1 or 2 players who are probably top 50 in the country. Then after that, they probably got about 4 or 5 mid-major players. And so that's obviously a good pipeline to have. And in Kansas City as well, we had a kid from Kansas City on our team down in Sam Houston, which is close. Kansas City, Mo Canyon, they're right there. And obviously, we've done a great job in the city of St. Louis. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what's contributed to a lot of our success is trying to keep these guys here at home, whether that's getting them out of high school or they go somewhere else and they transfer back here. We've done a good job of trying to establish those relationships with kids, coaches in the city, just because we've made coming to SLU kind of a cool thing to do. Staying home is a cool thing to do. You've seen players do that in the past. So I think we have that going for us, which has been probably the best thing that we have, as far as recruiting, is just right here in our backyard.
Is that a whole staff effort, or do Coach Ford and Coach Tate kind of take lead?
Everybody knows, C. Tate's the main guy that heads all that in the city, and he does a phenomenal job. Me just getting here, I'm kind of trying to hit the ground running a little bit, getting to meet those people here in the city of St. Louis. But it's a team effort. Everyone tries to do their part, but I'd be lying to you if I said that, Corey Tate doesn't do, a lot of that as far as the city. I mean, you could go eat at Kingside down the street and he's going to run into somebody that he knows. He's the mayor of St. Louis. So
yeah,
we try to do, everyone tries to do their part, but, Corey does a great job.
So we have Ziagwa. I think I said that right.
It's close.
Yep.
It's close.
Mike Wilson, yourself, and then it was reported that the strength and conditioning coach from OSU is likely heading up here. what is it about Travis Ford that even people who are recruited by him and then he leaves want to come work for him later? What is it about Travis Ford that makes him such a great person to work for?
I think it goes both ways. One, it shows that Coach Ford, cares, and he establishes those relationships. Whether it's me or Thomas, Mike, or Jake, it shows the relationship side of it, and that they obviously did like working for him. If they're willing to come back and do it again, and that's just how he is. Coach Ford is a very loyal person. He likes being around people that he can trust and that are loyal, and people it's just human nature. The people you're around most and you work with and you've recruited or you've had someone work for you, spend time with, that's when that relationship forms. And so, he recruited Thomas to Oklahoma State. So, he has that relationship and got him here. Mike worked for Coach for 2 years. They have that relationship, came here. Jake was there, I guess, 8 years, the whole time Coach Ford was. And so they know what it's like to work for him. They have relationships. So it's really pretty easy. That just shows the type of person Coach Ford is. I mean, you see a lot of different coaches out there. We all have buddies in the business, and you hear nightmares about certain situations. But I think that's what makes this job so appealing. I pull up to office every day. I don't really think it's work. Is it work? Yeah, but I don't really view it as that. You're showing up to work with people that you enjoy being around, which makes this job so much better.
So a couple things, given the OSU pipeline that we've got now, when I go over to the little, the magnifying glass on Twitter, like topics you may be interested in, Oklahoma State is the top thing every day. They're always giving me Oklahoma State news, and I'm like, you're kind of just a little bit off there, Twitter. But the other point is also DeVell Roby. I mean, I think him joining the staff says a lot too, because he's somebody that Ford did not recruit, but who, he inherited, and then who comes back to work for him too. And I know that's not always an easy relationship for a coach and a player, not being one of quote unquote your guys. Right. So I think that speaks volumes too. And when you're trying to put a team together, how much is that personality and that cultural fit part of the equation? Because obviously, you talked about kind of the skill sets and some of the personality traits that coach is interested in players, but are you also looking at like, man, I just don't see him with the guys on this squad right now, or maybe you round up a little bit on a guy because you think he's going to come here and fit in and do the work?
No doubt. Absolutely. That happens all the time. Forming a team is kind of like putting a big puzzle together, right? You got to have certain pieces. You just can't go out and get 5 Jay Nezes or go get 5 Fred Thatches, or 5 Gibson. That wouldn't be a good team. You want to put different pieces together that form that puzzle, that picture. And that's what makes a good team. Everyone has different strengths, but I will say for the most part, their personalities, how they fit coach is pretty consistent. And I think he's done a good job of that since he's been here. I think he's done a good job of having a culture that's about the right things. It's about winning. Are we perfect? No, but we have guys that want to win, that want to be in the gym, that are coachable, and that want to be here. And that's what I think makes this group so good is they are in the gym a lot. They work. They're playing pickup together. They love being around each other. Did we lose Jordan and Haas? Yeah. Is that going to hurt? Yeah. But we got some guys who are ready to step up, I think. And this summer it's shown. I mean, they've put the time in, and so the type of kids that we have here, their personality, their their vision, I think is what is going to make this transition after losing those two who've started every game since their freshman year. I'm excited to see where some of these guys, where they step into that spotlight this year.
I'm curious. We talked kind of about the makeup of the squad, and looking back to 2000, was that 2000, the A10 championship team? Yeah. The shooting wasn't there and hasn't really been there. It's been ramped up over the last couple of years. Gibson Jimerson comes in, and now it seems like Ford has really started to shift into trying to bring in shooters. Is that a conscious decision he's made based on, working with a team that could not shoot and maybe the limitations that kind of came from that?
What's funny when people ask me that question, those teams that I played on, and even the other teams before me at Oklahoma State, they all could shoot the ball really well. Played fast, shot a lot of threes, very versatile. And then here has been a little different, but I think it's more in the fact, he gets here his first year, his first recruiting class, he gets Jordan and Hasan, who are unbelievable players, and they're two of the best players to ever wear a jersey here. But their presence, their personality, the way they played was such a physical, tough, gritty style. And I think that they were the centerpiece of the teams going forward for 4 years. So I think those teams just reflected their personality. And that was kind of the identity of that team, like you said. I mean, we were just tough. When we went and won 4 games in 4 days, whatever, in Brooklyn, we were just tough. I mean, that's why we won. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say we were the most talented and shot. I mean, we were good, and we had some guys step up, but we were just a tougher team that whole weekend. And so I think that kind of attributes a lot to it. Was when those two got here, that was kind of the identity that was formed.
So looking at the roster now, and I know you guys have said maybe you're not completely done for the upcoming year, but how drastically different do you think the style of play might be when you're kind of looking at, okay, we've just got 2 kind of more traditional 5 men, and then other than that, you're really heavy in guard and wing kind of players. Are you looking at kind of like a 4 out, 1 in style, or obviously you're losing the identity of Goodwin and French. So you think it's going to be a big change year over year in terms of style?
I think for how we'll play this year, we'll have more versatility, especially 1 through 4 guys that could play the 2-3, 3-4, 1-2-3. And so I think our 4 out will be very, very interchangeable. We'll be very versatile. I think we'll shoot the ball really well. I mean, our guys have been playing pickup, and our guys make shots. Now, it's got to translate. It obviously is a little different when we get going. But I think we'll be a better shooting team. I really do. Really, 1 through 4, I mean, everybody can shoot. I mean, even Yuri, I know everyone talks about Yuri. Yuri's shot right now looks great. I wasn't here. I always tell people this. I wasn't here his 2 years when he played. I was not. When I just walked in the gym and I knew nothing about Yuri Collins, I'd say, yeah, he's a good 3-point shooter. He is, and he's worked his butt off this summer to develop that, and I think he'll be a big key for us as far as his leadership. And he's kind of taken hold of that this summer. He's done a good job in practice and workouts and leading, being more vocal. That's been the one challenge we've had for him. And he's responded up to this point. He knows we're going to need that out of him. There's other guys, TJ, same deal. He's been here 3 years now, so we expect the same thing out of him. But I know I kind of rambled on there from your question. But I think a lot of versatility, a lot of athleticism. We'll be able to switch a lot. And we'll be a very good defensive team. And I think people forget about Fred. Fred's been through a lot the past year and a half. Very experienced, very old, very mature. He's gotten better. So 1 through 4, we're deep. We're very versatile. We can shoot it. So I think it'll allow us to play fast and defensively be able to switch a lot of things as well, which will create some problems for people.
You mentioned people forget about Fred, and one of the running bits on this show is like in The Hangover. I forgot about the damn tiger. Yeah. Like there's always somebody that we're just like, oh yeah, we have him on the team too. But you mentioned shooting, and on Instagram we've seen TJ putting in a ton of work shooting the ball. Is he for real from 3 now, or how's he doing?
He's been great. His shot looks good. He's one of those guys that we expect more from him than the past 2 seasons. And we're going to need a lot out of him. He has the opportunity now to step in and play a big role. And he's embraced it. He's embraced it every day in practice and workouts and getting into the gym. And I told him the other day, I'm like, he's just now scratching the surface for how good he could be. We all know how athletic he is, how versatile, he could shoot it, can run well, get to the rim, finish. But now, we've got to take it one more notch, just one more gear. And he's done that so far this summer. And so it'll be exciting to see his development throughout the year, because we're going to need him to have a really good year for us, if we're going to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, I think Hargrove developing a 3-point shot will unlock a lot of highlight reel dunks.
Yeah.
At least the potential for it. And for the record, I've always been Yuri Collins is a fine 3-point shooter. He just gets in bad spots where he's out of rhythm because they leave him open. And now he's thought about it for too long and then he misses the shot. Anyway, that's my side note, Pete. I think you had a question. I could hear you.
No, I think, honestly, based on last season, Hargrove kind of already has found a shot. Now it's just a matter of bigger minutes, bigger volume. I mean, if, there were plenty of games where he's going 1 of 2 of 3. And if you do that for a season, all of a sudden, you're shooting close to 40% at the end of the year. And so, yeah, that puts a lot of confidence in your shot. But speaking of another guy who's kind of made a transformation in the offseason, Javonte Perkins has really beefed up, obviously gone through a really rigorous strength and conditioning program. What do you think the transition is going to be like for these guys from one strength and conditioning coach to another? The fact that he's coming from Oklahoma State, does that, add a little more familiarity there? Or do you think it's going to take a while for these guys to get on new programs?
I don't think so. Rob was really good. Rob was really good at what he does, and Jake is too. So they have a few different ways about going about, developing guys in the weight room. But I don't see it being a huge problem. Our guys love to work. They're going to do whatever that we ask of them. And so at the end of the day, if they just listen, buy into what they're telling them, we'll be fine. I think we honestly improve. Our program gets better by bringing Jake here, or the same. Rob was great, so I don't want to take anything away from him. Mm-hmm. But by Jake coming here, it's a step that we feel like our program is improving almost, or we're not losing anything by far with Rob leaving. That's for sure.
Who's a guy during the summer that you've seen that you think isn't being talked about enough going into this season as somebody who could step up and contribute more than expected from the fans' perspective, I guess?
I'll probably go with Rashad. I think a lot of St. Louis guys get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. Obviously, Jordan, Nesbit, we expect a lot out of him. Comes with a reputation. Memphis, everyone knows about him. I think Rashad, I think he's a guy that could really, really shoot it. One of those guys I think helps us shoot the basketball, spread the floor. I think he had 36 last year against Oklahoma State. I think 36 or 38. And so he has the opportunity to really fill it up. He does. He's experienced. He's played in big-time games. And so I think that's a guy that, we could expect a lot from him. Again, we're going to need him to. We're going to need him to make some shots. We need him to be aggressive and score for us, and that's why we brought him here. And he's had to play a lot of point, right now because we're missing DeAndre. DeAndre will get here in a week. And then he's really bought into that. He's been very coachable up to this point, hasn't played a whole lot of point. He'll play a little bit of that off the ball too, but he's been great as far as just trying to soak everything in and what we're teaching them. A lot of times you get guys that have transferred, they think they know it all already. Oh, I've played Division I, 2, 3, 4 years, blah, blah, blah. Now he's come in just like he's a freshman, trying to learn, absorb everything, be a sponge. And that's a guy I would say that I'm looking forward to seeing how he kind of takes off this season. I think we'll get a lot out of Rashad.
I had a feeling you'd like the 3-point shooter, the guy who led in 3-point attempts the last couple of years. Yeah. Speaking of DeAndre Jones, he was kind of a surprise for a lot of us. I know it was kind of a short period between when we kind of first heard about him and when he committed. But what do you see him bringing to the team this year? He's a guy who's I think he's Central Arkansas's all-time leader in assists, steals, and a couple other categories. Yeah. So he's obviously a guy who's really experienced. What do you think he brings to this team?
DeAndre, so he was in the same league as us at Sam Houston. So I played against DeAndre 4 times. So I've seen what he could do. And he lit us up one game for, I think, 34, 32, and pretty much single-handedly won them the game. And he played well against SLU, too. He played against St. Louis, I think, twice and put up good numbers. So there was a lot of familiarity with him. And we have Yuri. Everyone knows about Yuri there at the point, but he complements Yuri very, very well. I think last year he was shooting 50% from 3 before he got hurt. And that's at top of the country. He may not have gotten the attempts to qualify for it, but you're shooting 50% from 3 in early January. And he's getting them up. That's a heck of a percentage. And so he's experienced. He's played 4 years Division I basketball, point guard that can create for others, get in the paint, can really, really shoot it from 30. So he's a guy, we expect him to come in and help us out too. That's why we signed him. We didn't sign him to come in and just kind of sit the bench. We signed him to come in and make an impact. And so another guy that could shoot it really, really well, a lot of experience. So, hopefully he'll be able to give us a punch too. Just got to make sure that he's good to go knee-wise, and we'll be all right.
We're getting into more kind of things that are happening right now. And obviously on social media, there's been a couple players, I think, that have signed NIL deals. Obviously you being a more recent graduate of college, and not getting into too many specifics, but is there anything that, obviously it's good that these players are able to make a little money on the side using their likeness, but is there anything that concerns you going forward? It just seems like some of these companies are popping up out of nowhere, and kind of getting these deals with these guys. Is there any cause for a little concern at all, or is it kind of whatever?
I'm mad. I quit playing at about 5 years too soon. That's what happened.
I feel
no, again, we tell our guys this, the more endorsements, more opportunity that's going to come with that name, image, and likeness, the more that's going to come, the better you do out there on the floor. That's just how it works. So it's a balance, because I would be no different. 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, you want to make money. You want to figure out how to do all this. It's all new. It's new for us, our athletic department, these kids. And so you got to figure out how to balance that. And the most important thing is playing and handling your business on the court, because when you do that, it'll come. You build it and they will come. That's just how it works. So trying to get them to understand that, I think, is important. But we're all still trying to figure it out, from the athletic department to us. We've done good reaching out, talking to people, trying to get this stuff organized and how to handle it, because it's new waters for everybody.
I guess that changes the the recruiting sales pitch as well, right? You kind of have to consider long-term what a guy's opportunities are going to be at any given school. So has that dynamic come up a lot already in recruiting?
It has. It's come up a little bit, especially with the kids that are going to be seniors. That's a question that's been asked. The good thing about St. Louis is it's a city, so you have the opportunity to make money or get endorsement, whatever it is. You have a lot of opportunities for that. And St. Louis, we always say this, is the NBA team, or SLU's the NBA team of the city of St. Louis. So you're not competing with the NBA team, a G League team, or whoever, or a football team now. So, basketball is it. The Cardinals and the Blues, but, St. Louis Billiken basketball is the show. There's no NBA team here. So that helps. That helps where some college cities may not have that. Even if you're at a big school such as TCU, well, you're in Fort Worth. And you got Dallas 30 minutes away. So there's a lot going on where that might be a little bit harder. Here, I think, because basketball's so important to the school, to the city, it allows for a lot of opportunities for our kids.
Do you think it's easier with having the volume of places these kids can go to sign deals, versus maybe being in a small town where there may be less volume, but kind of more likelihood of them being the just a Pete, do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
A bigger fish in a smaller pond.
Yeah.
So it'd be like comparing St. Louis to Stillwater.
Correct.
Kind of something like that. Yeah. I think there's pros and cons. Obviously, when you're in a small college town, that is it. There are no sports teams. So those dealerships, restaurants, businesses, whatever, are going to be really dialed into maybe some of that. But I do think in St. Louis, it's a unique situation because, there's not the Rams. If the Rams were here, then that'd probably be a different story. There's no NBA team. So I do think in the city of St. Louis, it has some opportunity, even though it's a big city. People love basketball. That's just what it is. That's why we have a great arena. That's why we have great crowds. And so it's like anything, though, the better you perform out there, the more opportunities that you have. And so that's kind of been our main thing to our kids is, take care of your business in the classroom, on the court, and, make sure you're right. And those opportunities will come. We got a great athletic department and stuff. We'll figure that out. But again, it's new waters for everybody. But, our guys have had some opportunities, and, hopefully as this gets going more and we get used to it, we could continue to kind of figure this out and expand it, the best way we can for our guys.
I saw Fred started a basketball camp back in Sykeston, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And personally, I think that's for lack of a better word, non-power 5 players biggest opportunity for making money as a college student is to put on their own camp in their hometown. I'm curious what you think is probably their best avenue of going for a player that would come to St. Louis.
Yeah, I think social media, I think, is one way. TJ got through somebody, I forgot, it was on Instagram. Social media for these kids have 10,000, 12,000, 8,000 followers on Instagram, Twitter. So that's 10,000 people that are following, what you're doing. Because that content that you're putting out every day, I think, has an opportunity to be your brand. And, at the end of the day, social media is a big way. A lot of these businesses are going to get their word out or sell stuff or advertise. And so I think social media for our kids could be their best weapon. And as amount of people in the city, college students, boosters, alumni follow them, I think the stuff that they put on there, their content, their daily routine in the gym and class, working out, I think a lot of that stuff can help them and promote their brand, whether it's through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever.
So you've got the NIL stuff. You've got a transfer portal that's like twice as big as it was 5 years ago. No shortage of other rule changes to keep track of. The ongoing recruitment of players transferring a lot more in high school and trying to follow them around. Is there ever a time where you and the staff are just like, slow down? Like there's so many things changing in this sport all at once.
The good thing is, what I'm hoping is this will be all I know here in 5 years, because I've only this will be my 3rd year as an assistant. So hopefully this is just the way of life. I don't know any better. Like Coach Jack Letty's probably like, oh my gosh, this is insane. He's been doing this for longer than I'm alive, so it's part of it. I've just tried to have that mentality of this is what it is. These are the rules. Whether you like it or not, you have to adapt. If you don't, you'll get left behind. And so just kind of having that mentality through the past year, there has been a lot of changes. The portal, name, image, and likeness deal, and those two go hand in hand. I think those are both going to kind of go hand in hand when it comes to kids transferring at times. So definitely a lot. Just you got to figure it out. If you don't, then you'll get left behind, whether you like it or not.
How close are you watching some of the other leagues that are forming and trying to compete for high school kids too, like the Overtime Elite League? You've always got the G League that's out there. And I know now that a few kids have done it, there's probably more competition from, international leagues like the NBL.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you see some of the success that some of these kids have had, whether it's going to the NBL and playing and then coming back, going G League. And I just hear stories of some of these kids that are going that route. There's a lot more to deal with in recruiting. It's funny, the mid-major schools always had to worry about high majors coming in. Now the high majors have to worry about the G League overtime, and so everyone's got their thing they have to compete with. And that's just the way that college basketball's changed. There's so many different variables that go into recruiting now than maybe 10, 15 years ago. But I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to, if you recruit the right type of that kid that fits your program, your culture, and what works, you're going to hope that your culture prevails into whatever else is being pitched.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good, I kind of like that dynamic that maybe the big dogs have a little bit more.
Yeah. Welcome to our world.
Yeah. So, you've been back in St. Louis a few months now. How are you reacclimating to everything? How different is it post, or I guess still during the pandemic as compared to when you left?
Yeah. I get to finally move into my apartment in 2 days. So I've been living at a hotel for the past 2 months before I could have an apartment available and get my stuff shipped down from McAllen down in Texas. So our guys will go home. I'll get situated finally, but it's been a whirlwind. It's happened so quick. The week I get hired, I had to go on the road recruiting, and I was gone like 6 weekends straight. So it's all been going so fast. I was only in town really anyway 2-3 days out of the week. So it's been good. I'm glad to be here, but now I'm finally ready to get into my own place. As good as the Cheshire's been, I'm ready to move in. So,
what were you most excited to like restaurant wise or local spot wise? What were you most excited to get back to when you rolled back into town?
I am an Emos fan. I know it's like kind of being a Dallas. It's like being a Dallas Cowboys fan. You either love them or you hate them. I am an Emos fan, so I have been to Emos a couple times. Bar Napoli is right, or not Bar Napoli. Basso is right there at the Cheshire, so I've gone to Basso a couple times since it's walking distance. But I think we went to the Hill the other day. Which I could sadly say I did not go my first 2 years here to the Hill to eat. So finally got my first Italian Hill food experience. But it's been good, just running around, trying to get situated again. But definitely glad to be here.
Well, one last question. You're actually not even a question. Just kind of if you have a message for SLU fans going forward with this season, what do you got for them?
Yeah, I wasn't here last year. Obviously, just watched from afar. Last year I know there were some very exciting moments, beating LSU, beating NC State, being ranked in the top 20. Yeah, then COVID happened and we shut down for a month and a half. But I think, we're trying to build off of that. I think we have a good group right now that's experienced, that has been through some success, that has experienced some of that, but it's their turn. It's their time to step into the spotlight. I really do like this group. I've mentioned it a little bit on the show. I think our versatility, our athleticism, our ability to shoot the ball, I think will be better than some of the teams that we've had in the past. So excited to get going. Our guys report back in 2 weeks. Their last day is tomorrow. They'll lift and they'll be out of here. But we're excited. We have a tough schedule. I mean, our schedule is a beast. So we'll definitely be tested on early, but just trying to keep it going. Coach Ford's done a great job in his 6 years here. Obviously, I've been to the NCAA tournament, but just trying to take that next step. not just get there, but, try to get to a Sweet 16, Elite 8 type deal, and try to keep it going that direction.
Well, thank you again. We cannot thank you enough. And I just want to reiterate, how much Ford's doing was just good to me in his time at St. Louis University. I mean, coming on the podcast, I'm a chucklehead. I don't know anybody who to have people like you and Ford come on my podcast is just insane. And he got me a ticket to that game against Dayton this past year. I mean, that the first game, I didn't think I'd see a basketball game all year in Chaffetz, and I'm going to the first game, and I just unbelievable, unbelievable human being, besides being a basketball coach. So, Pete, anything?
No, just thanks for taking the time, and we're excited to have you back, and good luck this season.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Now I feel big time now that I've got on the show, so I appreciate your time, and you guys are always welcome. Practice, game, anything. We'll take care of you guys. You guys put out good content and stuff. So.
We appreciate that, and the door's always open. Anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. So it was good talking to you, man.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks
See
for
you
having me.
soon.
Yeah.